Hello everyone, welcome you once again to the official VisionQ channel. So in today's video, we'll discuss a new topic. This topic is very important for all the examination. Okay, APSC, any PCS examination, SSC, banking, railway, plus all other central and state level exam. And the topic name is problems on ages. Okay, now if I talk about this topic, this topic is a topic which is based on a concept of ratio. Okay, you can say this topic is an application of ratio only. So this is my third video in the maths lecture. So please watch the first two videos of ratio where I have discussed in the first part the basic concepts of ratio from basic to high level. In the second part I have discussed some questions of ratio from basic to high level. So please watch the two videos in the beginning because this topic is based on the concept of ratio only. Okay, you will get the links of the two videos in the description box in this video. So please watch the two videos first and then you can come back to this video whose name is problems on ages. And do watch this video from starting till the end to get the concepts clear of this topic. Okay, so that you can attempt any question which comes in the examination. So this will be the first part in the topic of problems on ages. Okay, it will be based on some concepts and some techniques to solve some special questions. Okay, asked in the examination. And I will be coming up with the next part also, which will be based on some questions from basic to high level. Okay, so let us start the video here, and first we'll be some concepts of this topic of ages. Okay, we'll discuss some concepts of this topic of ages. Now if I talk about the ages of any person, okay, if I talk about the ages of any person, suppose there are two persons A and B. Okay, there are two persons, suppose A and B, and let me assume that A is elder than B. That means A is greater than B. So whenever we talk about the ages of any persons, we talk at 3 points of time. Okay, past, present and future. So whenever we talk about the ages of any person, we always talk at 3 points of time, that is past, present and future. So suppose, let me assume that in the present, the age of A is 35 years. Okay, and the age of B is 25 years. Suppose in the present the age of A is 35 years and the present age of B is 25 years. Now if it is asked to find out their ages in the past, okay, suppose it is asked to find out 5 years ago. Okay, 5 years ago, that means in the past, that is subtract 5 years. If you have to move from present to past, you have to subtract 5, isn't it? If the present age of A is 35 years, then before 5 years, that is 5 years ago, the age of A was how much? 35 minus 5, which is 30 years. And the present age of B is 25 years, isn't it? So the age of B before 5 years was 25 minus 5, which is 20 years. And if it is asked to find out age in the future, okay, suppose it is asked to find out their ages after 10 years, okay, it is known as what? 10 years hence. 10 years hence. Now hence means in the future, that is after, okay, in the future. So 10 years hence is what? Plus 10. So to find out the ages in the future after 10 years, I have to add plus 10 to both the ages. So if the present age of A is 35 years, then after 10 years the age of A is how much? 35 plus 10, which is 45 years. And if the present age of B is 25 years, so after 10 years the age of B will be how much? The age of B becomes 25 plus 10, which is 35 years. So these are the ages of A and B at 3 different points of time. Okay, past, present and future. Now if I find out the difference of their ages, okay, if I try to find what? The difference of their ages in the past, present and future, since A is elder than B, I have to subtract A minus B because A is elder than B. So 30 minus 20 is 10 years. 35 minus 25 is again 10 years and 45 minus 35 is again 10 years. So our first conclusion is that the difference of the ages of two persons, okay, the difference between the ages of two persons at any point of time, maybe past, present or future, is always the same. Okay, the difference between the ages of two persons at any point of time, maybe in the past, in the present or in the future, is always the same. Now suppose I have to find out the ratio of their ages. Okay, next important is the ratio of the ages will be same or different at past, present or future. Now, if I try to find out the ages, their ages in the past, okay, this how much ratio of the age will be how much? 30 is to 20. So 30 is to 20 is how much? 3 is to 2. If I try to find out the ratio of the ages in the present, there is a present ratio of the ages, 35 is to 25. So if I cancel by 5, it becomes how much? 7 is to 5. And if I again try to find the ratio of the ages in the future, 45 is to 35. Okay, 5 is common here. So 5 9s are 45, 5 7s are 35. So I can clearly see that the ratio is not the same. At every point of time, maybe in the past, in the present or in the future, the ratio of the ages is not the same. The first point was that the difference is always the same between the age of two persons. But the ratio of their ages between these two persons at past, present or future is not the same. Okay. Now see the third conclusion. Now what if I ask you to find out the average? Okay, if I ask you to find out the average of their ages in the past, in the present and in the future. Now how to find out the average? See, to find out the average, I have to add all the numbers, that is sum of all the observations divided by number of observations will give the average. So this is the basic formula to find the average. Okay, sum by number of observations. So average is equal to sum of observations by number of observations. Now to find out the average in the past, it is 30 plus 20 by 2. Okay, so 30 plus 20 is how much? 50, and 50 divided by 2 is 25 years. So this is the average of their ages in the past. Okay, if I try to find out the present average of their present ages, it is how much? 35 plus 25 divided by 2. So 35 plus 25 will be how much? 60, and 60 divided by 2 will be how much? 30 years. And their average in the future will be how much? 45 plus 35 divided by 2. So 45 plus 35 is 80, and 80 divided by 2 is 40 years. Now what is the conclusion from here? See here, the average of A and B in the present is 30 years. And if you have to find out average before 5 years, to simply subtract 5. So 30 minus 5 is 25 years. And the average in the present is 30 years. If it is asked to find out their average after 10 years in the future, to simply add 10 with this. Okay, you will get the average in the future. So 30 plus 10 is 40 years. So just like the ages, I can also add and subtract the average of some persons. Okay, always remember this. Whenever you are given the present average, you can find out the average 5 years ago by subtracting 5. It is 25 years. And whenever you are given the present average as suppose 30 years, you can find out their average in the future. Okay, simply add 10 to this. So 30 plus 10 is 40 years. So difference is the same between the age of two persons in the past, present or future. Okay, but ratio is not the same in the past, present or future. Now average can also be subtracted or added just like the ages, which can be subtracted or added depending upon the point of time, past or future. Now based on this concept, okay, based on this concept of difference, ratio and average, how to solve questions using these concepts. We'll discuss some questions first of all with some examples in this today's session, okay, which are very important to solve questions of this topic of ages. So let's see the first example here. Example number 1. It is given that the present ages of Ajay and Vijay are in the ratio of 2:3. 10 years ago, that means in the past, this ratio was how much? 4:7. Now it is given ratio at 2 point of time. Okay. Ratio of two persons ages Ajay and Vijay. One is the present. The present ratio is how much? 2:3. Other ratio is 10 years ago. Okay, it is how much in the past? It is 10 years ago. That is minus 10 years from the present. So 10 years ago, in the past, the ratio of the ages was how much? 4:7. Now I know that whenever you are given ages ratio at 2 point of time, maybe past, present, maybe present or future, or maybe past or future, whenever you are given ratio of the ages at 2 point of time, always you have to think like this, the difference should be same, isn't it? the difference between the age of two persons should always be the same. Now difference of Bijay and Ajay's age is how much? In the past 3 years. 7 minus 4 is 3. And here in the present, the difference of the ages will be how much? 3 minus 2 is 1. Now I can clearly see here that the difference of the ages of these two persons is not the same. In the past, it is 3 years as per ratio, and in the present it is 1 year as per ratio. And we know difference should be same, na? So I have to make these two numbers same. To make two numbers same, I have discussed in the first part of ratio, okay, in the concept part of ratio, in the first video of ratio, always you need to find out the LCM. Now the LCM of 3 and 1 is 3. To make this 3 as 3, multiply this by 1. And to make this 1 3, multiply this by 3. So wherever there is 3, I have to multiply this ratio with 1. And wherever there is 1, I have to multiply this ratio with 3. To make the difference equal. To make the difference of the ages equal. Now, in the past, the age ratio was how much? 4:7 into 1. It becomes 4:7 only. Then 2:3, I have multiplied this 2:3 with 3. It becomes how much? 2 into 3 is 6 and 3 into 3 is 9. So, I can see here that the difference is the same. Okay, 7 minus 4 is 3. 9 minus 6 is 3. So, whenever this horizontal difference, okay, whenever this difference becomes the same, the vertical difference automatically becomes the same. Now from 4 to 6, the gap is 2 years as per ratio. And from 7 to 9, again the gap is 2 years as per ratio. Okay, so whenever the horizontal difference becomes the same, the vertical difference automatically becomes the same. And this concept is known as balancing of ratio. Okay, this method is very important, and the name of this method is balancing of ratio. Okay, balancing of ratio. That means I have to make the ratios balanced. Okay, balancing means what? To make the difference equal. Now these ratios are balanced because the difference of these ratios is same, 2 and 2. Now the gap between past and present or present and past is 2 for both these persons as per ratio. Now, but in the question it is given as 10 years. So this 2 will represent 10 years. Okay, this 2 represents 10 years. If 2 represents 10 years, then 1 represents 5 years, isn't it? 10 divided by 2 is 5 years. If 1 is 5 years, it is asked to find what? The ratio of the present ages of Ajay and Bijay. Now, in the present, the ratio was initially what? 2:3. But now it has changed and it has become what? 6:9. So, the present age of Ajay is 6 as per ratio. So, if 1 is 5 years, 6 is how much? 6 into 5. 30 years as per ratio, isn't it? And the present age of Vijay will be how much? 9 into 5, which is 45 years. Okay, so these are the present ages of Ajay and Vijay. So the answer is option number B, 30 and 45 years. So this concept is known as balancing of ratio to make the difference same. To make the vertical difference same, I have to first make the horizontal difference same. So once the horizontal difference becomes the same, the vertical difference automatically becomes the same. Okay, then 2 is 10 years, so 1 is 5 years, so 6 is 30 years and 9 is 45 years. So this is the first method to do such questions. Okay, whenever you are given two ratios and their gap is given. This gap for Ajay and Vijay was 10 years. Okay, 10 years is the gap from past to present or present to past. Now, such questions of ratio can also be done by the second method. Okay, and this method is known as the cross product method. I have discussed this method in details in the second video of ratio. Okay, so students, do watch the second video first before watching this part of problems on ages. Now see, this method is applicable whenever you are given two ratios. Okay, in this question you are given two ratio of Ajay and Bijay. One ratio is for the present. The present ratio, that means 0. 0 means the present ratio. 2:3, it is given as the 2:3 ratio. Then 10 years ago, the ratio was how much? 4:7. So before 10 years, that is minus 10, I can say. Now minus represents 10 years ago. Okay, 10 years ago, this ratio was how much? 4:7. So whenever you are given two ratios and their gap is given, so the gap from, you can say present to past or past to present is how much? 10 years for both these persons. You can either give both the numbers as minus 10, minus 10, or you can also take the numbers as plus 10, plus 10. Answer will have no difference. They will have the same answer in both these cases. So you can either give the difference as minus 10, minus 10 or plus 10, plus 10. So whenever you are given two ratios and their gap is given, this gap from past to present or present to past, you can always apply cross product method in such questions. So what to do? Cross multiply. Okay, what to do here? Just cross multiply here. So first multiply 2 into 7, 3 into 4. So and always subtract what? Larger number minus smaller number. Always subtract a smaller number from a larger number. So 2 into 7 is 14, 3 into 4 is 12. Okay, 14 is larger number. So 14 minus 12 is 2. Will represent. Now multiply the below part, this and this. Now multiply these two numbers. So 4 tens are 40, 7 tens are 70. Then again subtract. What? Larger minus smaller. So 70 is larger than 40. So 70 minus 40 is 30 years. So 2 represents 30 years. If 2 represents 30 years, then 1 represents 15 years. Okay, 1 represents 15 years. If 1 is 15 years, then what is 2? 2 will be 2 into 15, 30 years. And 3 represents 3 into 15, 45 years. So these are the present ages of Ajay and Vijay, 30 and 45 years. Option number B. Now, in case of cross product method, always remember one very important concept. Whenever you get value of 1, okay, after you get the value of 1 is 15 years as per this question, it is not possible to find what is 4 and what is 7. That means value is not possible to find out from the second ratio. So whatever you need to find is to find from the first ratio only. Okay, 2:3. It is not possible to apply or find the value from the second ratio in case of cross product method. Okay, so this was the first question of today's series, question number 1. Okay, I have discussed how to do it in two different ways. One is the balancing of ratio method, okay, where you need to make a difference same, and the second method is known as the cross product method. Now, if someone wants to do it in the basic method, as we have got in the school level, okay, in the school level, how we used to solve such questions? That is the basic method, okay, using X. This is the third method to solve such questions. You can apply basic method as in using X. So what you need to take X is that whichever value is asked to find out, take that value as X, okay. It is asked to find what? The present ages of Ajay and Vijay. So let the present age of Ajay and Vijay be X. Now the present ratio was how much? 2:3. So from the present ratio, I have to assume the values as X. So let the present age of, okay, let the present age of Ajay be twice X and the present age of Vijay be thrice X. So I have used the first ratio, okay, to take X. Now our main aim is to solve this X variable. To solve this X, take the help of the second ratio. Now second ratio is at what point of time? 10 years ago, okay. So this is the ratio of the ages when? 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, before 10 years, you need to find out the age of Ajay and the age of Vijay. Now if in the present, the age of Ajay is twice X years, then 10 years ago, that means in the past, the age of Ajay becomes how much? Twice X minus 10. If in the present, the age of Vijay is twice X years, so 10 years ago, the age of Vijay becomes how much? Thrice X minus 10. And the ratio of these ages, 10 years ago was how much? 4:7. So Ajay is to Vijay is equal to how much? 4:7. So from this equation, you need to find out the value of X, okay. Now if I cross multiply, it is how much? 14X minus 70 will be equal to how much? 12X minus 40. So 14X minus 12X is how much? Twice X. If twice X will be how much? 30, then X becomes how much? 30/2, which is 15. So X is 15. And once you find out X, you can find out the age of Ajay and Vijay. So Ajay's age is how much? 2 into 15, 30 years. And the age of Vijay is how much? 3 into 15, which is 45 years. Option number B. So such questions can be done by three methods. Basic method using X, cross product method where you are given two ratios and their gap is given, okay, And the first method was the balancing of ratio, where you need to make a difference of ratios equal at past, present or future. So this was the first example of the topic of ages. So let us move to the next example now. Example number 2. Okay, see here it is given here. 10 years ago, that means in the past, daughter's age was 2/5 of her mother's age that time. That is 10 years ago. Okay, it is given, see, in the 10 years ago, in the past, daughter's age was equal to 2/5. That is 2/5 of her mother's age. So from this statement, I will get the ratio only. Whose ratio? Daughter is to mother. So from here, daughter is to mother's age ratio will be how much? 2:5. That means if the daughter's age is 2 years, mother's age is 5 years. While 10 years hence, that means in the future, after 10 years, her age will be 3/5 of her mother's age. So from this, again I will get the ratio between the age of daughter and mother. So daughter is to mother's age ratio will be how much? 3:5. If daughter's age will be 3 years, then mother's age will be 5 years after 10 years. So now the same concept as the first example, example number 1. You are given two ratios. You are given two ratios here. So whenever you are given two ratios and their gap is how much? Okay, if I see the gap here, so the ratios was between which persons? Daughter and mother. One was 10 years ago, minus 10. It was 2:5. And next ratio was how much? After 10 years. Okay, 3:5. So whenever you know two ratios and their gap you know, you can either apply cross product method or balancing method. Now if I want to apply cross product method here, the gap from present to past or present to future will be the same. Okay, now see, 0 means the present, after 10 years means plus 10, and before 10 years means minus 10. So from after 10 years to before 10 years, or from before 10 years to after 10 years, whichever you say, this gap will be 20 years, no? Isn't it? This gap is 20 years from after 10 to before 10, or from before 10 to after 10 years. So this gap will be 20 years. Okay, this gap is 20 years for daughter, and again this gap is 20 years for her mother. This gap will be same here. Now whenever you know two ratios and their gap is given, you can again apply what method? Cross product method. Okay, so just cross multiply in this way. Just cross multiply here. Okay, the gap was 20 and 20 for both these persons. So 2 into 5, 10, 3 into 5, 15. 15 is larger than 10. So subtract a larger and a smaller. So 15 minus 10, which is 5, will represent. Now multiply this part, these two numbers. So 3 into 20 is 60. 20 into 5 is 100. Then subtract a larger and a smaller. So 100 minus 60, which is 40 years. So 5 will represent 40 years. If 5 is 40 years, 1 is 8 years. Okay. 1 represent 8 years. So if 1 is 8 years, it is asked to find what? The difference of their ages. So I have to find out the difference of their ages, okay, from the first ratio only. It is not possible to find the difference of their ages from the second ratio if you apply cross product method, because value cannot be found from the second ratio. Value can be only found from the first ratio. Okay. Now if I subtract these two persons' ages, it becomes how much? 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay, so if 1 represents 8, then 3 will represent how much? 3 into 8, which is 24 years. Okay, so this was the second example number 2. Difference will be same in the present or in the past or in the future. Okay, now this difference was when? Before 10 years. So we know everyone difference is the same. I discussed just before, isn't it? Difference will always be the same in the present, in the past or in the future. So this difference is will always be 24 years. Maybe in the present, maybe in the past or maybe in the future. The right answer of this question, example number 2, is option number A, 24 years. So next in front of you is question number 3 or example number 3. It says that in 2002, Akash age was 1/3 of the age of Ajay, whereas in 2010, Akash age was half the age of Ajay. So what is Akash year of birth? Okay, now see this question number 3. it is not mentioned about the point of time. Which year is the present year, which year is the past year. So in such questions, you can assume anyone as the present, anyone as the past. Now if I assume 2002 as the present year, okay, if I assume 2002 as the present year, then 2010 will be how much? It will be what? Age in the future. After how many years? After 8 years. So this gap from present to future is 8 years if I take 2002 as the present year and 2010 as the future. Now in 2002, Akash age was 1/3 of the age of Ajay. Okay, it is there were two persons' ages, Akash and Ajay. So Akash is to Ajay's ratio will be given here from this first sentence. Okay, Akash age is 1/3 of the age of Ajay. So from this sentence, I can find the ratio of the ages of Akash is to Ajay. It is how much? 1:3. And next ratio is in 2010, that is in the future. In 2010, Akash age was half of the age of Ajay. So Akash is to Ajay's ratio will be how much? 1:2. Okay. So again the same concept as example number 1, example number 2. Just the difference was that the year. Okay. So in such questions, you can assume anyone as the present, anyone as the past, or anyone as the future. Now you are given two ratio in present and future, and you know the gap of this ratio also. This gap from present to future will be 8 years for Ajay, also 8 years for Akash. Both will be same, 8 and 8. Now your aim is to what? Cross multiply using cross product method. So 3 into 1 is 3, 2 into 1 2, and then always subtract the larger number minus the smaller number. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, 1 represents how much? This can be found from the below portion, this portion. So 2 into 8 is 16, 1 into 8 is 8. Then always subtract the larger number minus the smaller number. So 16 minus 8 is 8 years. So 1 will represent 8 years. If 1 is 8 years, it is asked to find out Akash year of birth. To only find out the age of Akash. So if 1 is 8 years, so this 1 will represent 8 years. So 8 years is the present age of Akash in 2002. Okay, in 2002, the age of Akash is 8 years. So you have to find out what? The year of birth of Akash. So how to find out the year of birth? 2002 minus 8. Okay, it is how much? 1994. So answer is option number B, 1994. Okay, so in such questions, you can take anyone as present, anyone as past, anyone as future. So next in front of you is the first example, example number 4. Okay, now this question says that the present ratio of the age of A and B is 3:5. The ratio is given in the present. Okay, the present ratio of the age of A is to B is what? 3:5. If the sum of the ages of A and B 6 years hence will be 60 years, but the sum is given in the future. Okay, the sum is not in the present. Remember this. The sum is in the future. So in the future, the sum of the ages of A and B will be 60 years. So if in the future, the sum of the age of A and B will be 60 years, then if I need to find out the present sum of A plus B, what to do? From this 60, you have to subtract. Okay, subtract how much? From 6 years hence to present, I have to minus 6. I have to subtract 6 for one person. But there are two persons, no? Isn't it? To minus 6, that is minus 12. If there had been 3 persons, A, B and C, okay, then I have to subtract how much? 60 minus 6 minus 6 minus 6, that is minus 18 in this way, in order to find out the present sum. So 60 minus 12 is 48 years. So why I have found out the present sum? Because the ratio is given in the present. Okay, since the ratio was given in the present, so I have to find out the given condition again, the given condition in the same point of time as the ratio. Since ratio was given in the present ratio only, so I have to find out the present sum of A and B, which is 48 years. Okay, from the future sum. Now, if here difference had been given, suppose it is given like this, the difference 6 years hence, okay, difference of the ages of A and B, 6 years hence will be 20 years, Now difference will be same at every point of time, isn't it? Difference will be the same in 6 years and also in the present. The present difference will also have been 20 years. Okay, difference should not be changed. But sum of the ages, ratio of their ages, average of their ages is not the same at every point of time. Okay, past, present or future. You need to change the sum or the average depending upon the ratio. In this example number 4, since ratio was given in the present, so to find out the present sum only from the future sum. Now this question just becomes the concept of ratio only. See, A is to B is 3 is to 5. Okay, A is to B is 3 is to 5 in the present. A plus B is 48 years in the present. So I can just use the concept of ratio only. So A plus B is how much? 8. And 8 will represent 48 years as per ratio. So 1 represents 6 years. If 1 represents 6 years, it is asked to find what? The age of B before 5 years. So let me first find the age of B in the present. So if 1 is 6 years, then 5 will be how much? 5 into 6, 30 years. Okay. But this is the present age of B. To find out his age 5 years before or 5 years ago, simply subtract 5. Okay. So 30 minus 5 is 25 years. So answer is option number A, 25 years. So in this example number 4, ratio was given in the present, but the given condition or the sum was given in the future. Try to convert this sum from future to present because the ratio was given in the present. And remaining concept is of ratio only. Okay. So this was example number 4. Now in the next example number 5, see what happens. Sum is given in the present. Okay, present sum is given. Present sum is given 90 years. But ratio is not the present. Ratio is when? 10 years ago. That means in the past. In the past, 10 years ago, okay, ratio is how much? 5 is to 6 is to 1. So always remember that ratio cannot be changed. Ratio will always be fixed. Okay, ratio cannot be changed from past to present. You have to change the given condition depending on the ratio. Now, in this question, ratio was given when? 10 years ago. So our first aim is to find out their sum 10 years ago. Okay, our aim is to find the sum again 10 years ago because this ratio was given when? 10 years ago. So if the present sum is 90 years, if the present sum of A plus B plus C is 90 years, if you are to find out their sum 10 years ago, so from present to past, subtract. Okay, subtract how much? 10, 10, 10, because there are 3 persons. So subtract 10 into 3, which is 30 years. Okay, because there are 3 persons, so subtract 10, 10, 10, which is 30 years. So 90 minus 30 is 60 years. Now the point of time becomes the same. Ratio was given in the past 10 years ago, and I also found out the sum of their ages 10 years ago, which is 60 years. So 10 years ago, A is to B is to C was given to be how much? 5 is to 6 is to 1. Okay, and I have just found out their sum again 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, A plus B plus C was how much? 60 years. So A plus B plus C as per ratio, it is how much? 5 plus 6 plus 1. Okay, it is 12 years. If 12 represents 60 years, then 1 represents how much? 5 years. 60 by 12, 5 years. If 1 is 5 years, I can find out the age of A, age of B and age of C. It is asked to find out the present age of B. Okay, let me find out the age of B as per ratio, which is 6 as per ratio. So if 1 represents 5 years, then 6 represents how much? 6 into 5, which is 30 years. Now this age of B was when? 10 years ago. It was 10 years ago. But it is asked to find out the present age of B. Na? So from past to present, you have to add 10 to this. So 30 plus 10 is 40 years. Option number C. So this question, the last question was just the opposite. Okay. In the previous question, ratio was of present, but sum was of future. But in this question, ratio was of past, but sum is of present. So ratio cannot be changed. Remember always that ratio cannot be changed, but you have to change the given condition depending on the ratio. Since ratio was given 10 years ago, okay, so I have to find out the sum again 10 years ago only. And to find out the sum 10 years ago, subtract 90 minus 30 because there are 3 persons A, B and C. And the remaining concept is of ratio only. So students, let us discuss the last example of today's series. This is a part 1 of this ages topic, example number 6. So when Sumit's age 3 years ago is doubled and subtracted from twice his age 2 years hence, resultant is exactly half of his present age. So find his present age in years. Okay. Now this is one question where you need to take x. Okay. You need to apply the basic method here. That means whichever age is asked to find out, take that value as x. It is asked to find out the present age of Sumit. So let the Sumit's age be x years. Suppose. Because it is not possible to apply ratio here. Okay. In the previous 5 examples I have discussed, you can apply the concept of ratio because they are given 2 ratios and the gap is given. But in this question, you have to apply only basic method using the concept of x. So let the age of Sumit be x years. Now when Sumit's age 3 years ago, okay, when Sumit's age 3 years ago, so 3 years ago, that means in the past, Sumit's age is how much? X minus 3 years. Okay. When Sumit's age 3 years ago is doubled, that is double this value, 2 times of x minus 3. So when Sumit's age 3 years ago is double and subtracted from what? Subtracted from twice his age 2 years hence. So again I need to find what? His age 2 years hence. So if Sumit's present age is x years, his age 2 years hence, that is his age after 2 years is how much? X plus 2 years, isn't it? X plus 2 years. When Sumit's age 3 years ago is doubled and this value is subtracted from what? From twice his age 2 years hence. So his age 2 years hence is x plus 2 and 2 times of this is how much? 2 into x plus 2. So it is given in the question like this. When Sumit's age 3 years ago is doubled, when this value 2 into x minus 3 is doubled, okay, this value is doubled, that means his age 3 years ago is doubled, that is this value is subtracted from twice his age 2 years hence. So twice his age 2 years hence is this value. So when this value is subtracted from this value, that means 2 into x plus 2 minus 2 into x minus 3. Okay, when this value 2 into x minus 3, that is 2 times of his age 3 years ago, is subtracted from what? 2 times of his age 2 years hence. So then what happens? The resultant value is exactly half of his present age. So this value is equal to half of his present age, which is x. So this is the equation. Okay, and from this equation your aim is to find out the value of the variable which is x. Okay, so this type of question can only be done using the basic method using x. Okay, so first I need to find out the value of x from here and then I can get the age of Sumit. So just multiply, just break the equation here. So twice x plus 4, okay, minus twice x plus 6 will be how much? X by 2. So twice x minus twice x will be cancelled out. Okay, it becomes how much? 4 plus 6 is 10. Will be x by 2 and x is how much? 10 into 2, which is 20 years. The right answer of this example number 6 is option number B, which is 20 years. Okay, so in such questions you have to take x here. It is not possible to apply ratio concept in such questions because it is not given about ratio in this example number 6. So whichever value is asked to find out, take that value as x and try to form the equation like this, and then from this you can find the value of x. So students, I have discussed the first part of this topic of ages, where I have discussed some very good examples and very important examples for any examination. Okay, from example 1 to example number 6. If you have liked this video, please don't forget to share this video with your friends and do press the bell icon so that you will get notifications about different videos in the coming future. So we'll discuss the questions in the next part, that is the problems on ages part number 2. And if you have any queries about this part, so please do comment in the comment section and I will try to clear all your doubts. So thank you everyone. Meet you in the next session.